What's going on, everyone? So I wanted to do an update on my Slim. A lot has changed since the first time I showed it about a year ago, so let's check it out. Some of you may already know through a comment, but my Slim stopped working about 2 months after I had originally finished it, at which point I just shelved it because I really wasn't using it and I had no intention of spending any more money on it. It stuck to that for a few months. Eventually, I just couldn't stand to see my dream Xbox just sitting there, so I opened it up and was pretty much horrified by the mess of wires. Everything was hardwired together, making it impossible to really tear down without the use of a soldering iron. So I pretty much started from scratch, only reusing a couple of things: LCD screens, the mod chip, IDE cable, icebergs, DVD dongle, and the faceplate. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but still from scratch. The biggest change to the outside is the new top shell. I kept with the same color scheme, but I painted the fins in a solid gray to make it pop more. I decided to go with a painted jewel, which is something I've never done before, and well, now I have. I went with screen rather than the plexiglass. Main reason for that was the Slim was getting way too hot. When I first got it back together and started testing the temperatures, my GPU was getting up to 70 degrees Celsius after about 40 minutes in Halo 2, which is unacceptable in my opinion. After adding the screen, my temperatures dropped down to 60 after 40 minutes, which is still too hot for me, so I ended up adding a fan that pulls in air from the top. You can slightly see it in the left corner. This has dropped my temps down to 53, which is great. 55 or lower is a nice place to be. Taking a look at the back, I've simplified it from what it was, which required me to cut a new bottom shell. All that's back here now is a single switch which controls the function of my internal DVD dongle and my player 4 controller port. Up front, not much has changed from last time. I color matched my buttons. The eject button now acts as my quick boot button, which loads directly into XBMC rather than the SmartXX OS. I also color matched my temperature LCD bezel. Now, I'm reluctant to show the bottom because it's by far the least polished. Since I didn't end up redoing the faceplate, there was a large hole. I had originally thought I had to cut the fins out to get the LCD to fit. This ended up not being the case, but oh well, it is what it is. Now I know, and now you know. Oddly enough, my faceplate is secured in place with zip ties. The advantage to this is, if I ever needed to remove the faceplate, I can. I had originally had this held together with hot glue. In fact, a lot of this Xbox had hot glue in it before. Hot glue is a great thing, but it's far from professional, and I've been removing it from my modding techniques. So in future videos, you won't see me using it much, if at all. So let's open this up. The top is almost friction fit. It takes a bit of effort to remove. I still need to go to the store and pick up some appropriately sized wood screws, but I keep forgetting. With the top off, you will see the fan I was talking about and how my RGB LED strips are connected. I just used and modified this little connector that comes with them originally, then the fan is just plugged into the motherboard. Here's a better view of my top shell, all the wiring, everything is held in place with super glue, nothing too fancy, just tried to keep it clean. Moving back to the good stuff, I single sleeve my power supply with paracord because why not? The hard drive has moved onto a modified DVD drive tray. I paint matched my Iceberg Pro 4 coolers. I swapped the motherboard from a version 1 to a 1.4 just to simplify the inside by getting rid of the controller port daughter board. My mod chip has moved more towards the center because it just works best there, so let's get this hard drive out. I took the DVD drive power cables and modified them so that I could make the LCD screen detachable from the mod chip. Turns out these cables have the perfect amount of pins for the job. You can also see the white wires and connectors. Those are for my IRI and my hard drive activity light. A big thing for me when redoing this Xbox was making everything detachable, so that all the big parts could be removed in case I wanted to add more later. Originally, I had 23 hardwired wires that held the motherboard to the front faceplate. As you can imagine, taking it apart sucked. So the mod chip is a SmartXX LT OPX. Again, a big shout out to PolyT for sending it my way. I really appreciated it. The chip was wire installed with 26 gauge wire. The D0 point is 30 gauge, and I really just tried my best to make it look as clean as possible. The white wires all just have a nice flow to them. You might be wondering what those two resistors are doing. This particular chip was sort of a budget option, so it didn't come with a potentiometer to adjust contrast. And since they are just adjustable resistors, this works fine. One thing on the top of the motherboard I didn't talk about is my LED controller. Nothing special. It takes power from the DVD drive connector, and the lights can be changed with the remote that I didn't show, but I always just keep them blue. but it's nice to have options. Moving on to the bottom side of the motherboard, we have all my wiring for the Zerk chip. The icebergs are hardwired to the fan connector points, and my hard drive activity light wiring is on the far right. The Zerk chip allows the Xbox to be turned on and off with an IR remote. Just to give a closer look at the wiring, again, I just let it flow, and it was done with 26 gauge wire. Moving to the bottom shell, I have UV green Molex connectors, which power my temperature LCD and my IDE to SATA adapter. I shortened my power supply cable just to get rid of unneeded wire and make it clean. If I had a Molex crimper, I would have matched that connector as well, but I don't. From here you can see my wiring that all goes back and forth to my switch, which I mentioned earlier. The switch is between the DVD dongle and the controller port for functioning normally. I moved my temperature probe underneath the motherboard between the CPU and the GPU. It's just held in place with some electrical tape. The readings seem to be 5 to 10 degrees off most of the time from what my mod chip says. Can't expect it to be all that accurate, but it gives you a rough idea, which is never a bad thing. I originally saw the mod done on a 360, so I did it to my Xbox to add a bit of bling, and now I just can't seem to stop doing it. This 50mm fan sucks air in, and I just shove these wire ends into the other fan's connector. Haven't had any issues with them coming loose. You can see my switch, and you can't really see, but there is an indicator LED back here to show whether or not the DVD dongle is powered. Here's a look at my hard drive holder. The drive is held in place with some hex head screws. The hard drive itself is now a 1TB rather than a 500 gig. I also forgot to mention, but this IDE cable is the upgraded 40 wire ATA, which is supposed to help with load times, but honestly, who really knows? It's always been one of those maybe it does, maybe it doesn't work type of mods. Moving on, let's power the Xbox up. The only issue with using the remote to power it on is it loads into SmartXX OS. Not a huge deal, just an extra click. I'm using IND BIOS 5004, my main dash is Xbox Media Center, and the skin is called Origins. It's actually a modified Origins called Games Only, which I went ahead and modified a bit more. I wanted the file explorer instead of game saves. The favorites area was also messed up. It was stretching out images and making them look terrible. Then I just messed with some icons, nothing too complex. The featured games area is pretty cool, just cycles through some random games on the hard drive. Of course you have to make all these custom images, which takes forever. You can bookmark 5 favorite games. Then the icons on the bottom are shortcuts to emulators. These can be changed pretty easily if you go over to the settings menu. You can set these to games or other apps if you want. The only emulators I don't have on the home screen are the PS1 and the Atari 2600. I'm just going to keep it on CoinOps for now though. Let's go ahead and look at the games. I currently have 95 on the hard drive, and yes, I made all the art for all these games, and it took a long time, and it sucked, and I don't ever want to do it again. And is the main reason for me taking so long to get this video out. To be completely honest, I have more games on here than I will ever play. My hard drive still has 650 gigs left on it, and I still have another 20 games on my computer that need to be moved, but I got sick of making art, and I really just wanted to get this video out. Some of the only games I play on here are Fusion Frenzy and Shrek Super Party. Both fun party games. If you haven't already, you should check them out. Here's my emulators tab, which is almost pointless since there are shortcuts to all but 2 of them on my home screen. The only art I didn't make was the CoinOps one. It's technically inaccurate as I have CoinOps Premium 8 Massive on the hard drive and not Massive 7. So let's load up Premium 8. I'm sure most of you have already seen this emulator at some point. It looks pretty cool, that's for sure, and it's loaded with a bunch of games that I will probably never get around to actually playing. Now, I wanted to show you this Halo map pack launcher, which is really cool. It allows you to launch all different types of map packs, which I would have showed, but apparently my paths are all incorrect. So if you guys are interested in seeing these map packs, let me know and I'll make a video on it, which would be different since I don't really do videos like that. Alright, so I do get a lot of questions on temperatures, so here it is at idle. You're getting all the information you want. The only thing I never mentioned was I'm using Arctic Silver 5 thermal paste. But temperatures at idle are hardly that important, so let's put some stress on the Xbox. I've been doing this by loading up Halo 2, launching into a multiplayer map, and letting it sit for 40 plus minutes. I just ran around a bit, and as you can see, the temperature is rising, so let's just zoom in and wait this timer out. Okay, so it's been just about 40 minutes and the temperature hasn't went up at all from here for the last 20. It's a safe bet to assume it won't get any higher than this in its current environment, which is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So getting any good shots of the LED is near impossible with my main camera, so I had to revert to my phone and I just freehanded it. I hope that's okay. Last thing I want to talk about is exactly how much I've spent on this particular Xbox. I get a lot of people asking me to build them one, and giving an idea of the price will hopefully stop the people who waste my time from contacting me. Custom consoles aren't cheap and they take a lot of time. Firstly, the console itself. These currently range 30 to 50 bucks. Now, you can get lucky and pick one up for as cheap as 20, but that's getting less and less likely. Hard drive, another thing that can vary depending on the size. My particular hard drive was $47. And since my first hard drive died, that one was $25 used. IDE to SATA adapter. I only use the StarTech brand because they work. $18 to $20. I bought cheap adapters that don't work on large hard drives, which makes them useless. I know some people get lucky with cheap adapters, but I never have. So this is all you really need for a modded Xbox. Everything from here on is extra. So $95 to $117, maybe even cheaper, gets you a basic modded Xbox. Temperature LCD was like $8, but if you want a specific color and a specific style, they can get up to around 20 bucks. The mod chip LCD, 9 or 10 bucks from the US. Arctic Silver 5 was 5 bucks. DVD playback kit, 9 to 15. The Switch was 4 bucks. The two fans, they run about $5 each. LED strip kit was about 14. The round IDE cable was about 7. Now to get into the parts that just aren't available anymore, such as the mod chip, which prices are what you will pay for them. From what I've seen, $50 plus. The Iceberg Pro 4s, I paid $40 for both. The Zerk chip was $19. As for other things such as paint, I used 3 different colors: textured black, textured gold, then a flat black. The textured paint is about $9 a can and the flat black was like $5. So around $25 for the paint. Any other supplies, LEDs, resistors, wire, connectors, hardware, paracord, screen, I'll just say 10 bucks. I remember the 2 hex head screws that hold the hard drive in place were about $1 each from my local store. Obviously, buying all the stuff yourself in the smallest quantities will add up quickly and will be well over 10 bucks. On top of all the other specialty tools, modding isn't cheap, but most hobbies are that way. So my grand total on the console is $249, not including the mod chip, not including the failed hard drive, or the fact that I used 2 different consoles to make this. Been about double on paint since I've painted it twice and the plexiglass was wasted. Another factor is time. I really can't say exactly how long I spent working on this Slim over the past year. Doing the case cuts and making them look nice takes time, and on the Slim there are a lot of different cuts. Every piece was modified in some way. I would say I spend about 2 hours doing something like a basic DVD drive window, from drawing it out to cutting to sanding. I take my time because I want the cuts to look nice. That's important to me. If I had to just throw out a guess on how long it would take me to recreate the Slim now, knowing all the things it's taught me along the way, I would say 15 to 20 hours, from a bunch of parts to a loaded, ready-to-play system. Obviously, a simpler modded Xbox wouldn't take as long, maybe 5 or 10 hours. It's all subjective. It's really tough to give these sorts of estimates, so I'm just going to end it here. This has probably been my longest video, so thank you for watching it. Definitely felt like I rambled on. Please thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter at TechnoOnTop. Be sure and check out my other videos if you haven't already. I really appreciate it, and until next time, peace.